Welcome to Tuesday Truth. I'm Andrew, your host, and today we're diving into the most powerful moments from this week's conversation with this week's amazing, inspiring guest. These are clips, but they're also insights that'll change how you see your own journey. So let's get right into it.
So I think it was like I really loved him. He was like the first guy that, I had never been in long relationships because I would figure out like I didn't think I was going to marry them, then I wouldn't waste my time dating. So I had never been in a relationship for more than even a year, but like been even that year-long relationship that I once had, it was like I had broken up with him at 6 months, so I had never been with someone longer than 6 months without breaking up with them, and
Yeah.
until this guy that I married. And so I really wanted it to work, and he wasn't horrible. I think he's, a great guy deep down. He just he loved himself a lot, I think, and was um I think he just didn't know how to be real and go beyond the surface. And so it was like the things just, they weren't super bad at
Mm.
first, and it's I heard a saying recently that resonated with me and may with you too, but like that this relationship was this, it was saying the best way, like if you want to boil a frog, if you put it in boiling water, it's going to jump out immediately. But if you put a frog in lukewarm water and then slowly raise the temperature, it will eventually die and be, because it'll be boiled alive, because it just slowly gets worse and worse until before like it's too late. And that's
Yeah.
what the best way to explain this relationship was, that like it, I kept arguing with him about things and like wanting him to be home instead of at the gym 6 hours a day, or wanting him to help pay like half of the bills, or wanting to talk about things and actually have a relationship, or help with Surrey, you know, anything. And then you just eventually get tired of arguing and them saying, okay, I'm going to make a change, and then the change not happening. So then you just stop bringing it up, and then it just keeps getting worse. And then the root cause is still there. So it's like, I'm not going to argue with you about this one issue anymore, but then the root issue of this is causing other issues. And so it just keeps coming up. And so it was like, it was, I guess 4 years in that my assistant was like, Thea, this is not good. Like, you deserve so much better. And she was in the day in and day out. And so she was the only person who saw everything that was going on and how much it affected me. Um, and he
That
was
was your
very
assistant,
critical of
did you
me.
say?
Yeah, my assistant, yeah. So she was
Wow,
like
good on
working
her.
for me. Yeah. And because I had like shortness of breath, like since the day that I married him. And I thought it was because of like running a business and whatever. Like, I just couldn't breathe. So I would be like pushing into the thing, like trying to breathe, and he would just be like, I mean, just chill. Like, why can't, like, just stop stressing or stop whatever. And I'm like, well, obviously I'm not trying to be stressed. And I never realized that it was because of this relationship until I finally left. And I ended up just writing him a letter, because every time I wanted to go to therapy, I wanted to read a book like The Power of Praying Marriage and Five Love Languages, he wouldn't do any of the things. And so after like years of trying to, fix things and get help and work, and him refusing, I finally just wrote him a letter of all the things, and
Get it out.
and I left. And I was like, I'm just going for a few days, and at this point I thought I was going to come back and hopefully like make it work. And of course, he, like, within that first week, just like read all the books, had scheduled therapy. He was wanting to do all the things that I'd been begging him to do for years, and he never would. But at this point, I think it was just like it had taken me so long to build up this wall that it was like once it was up, I couldn't get it back down. And so then I had to move out, and we were getting a divorce, and then I had met someone else, which was someone that I had known for a long time, but I just never saw him like romantically. But I
Yeah.
honestly think that it was like because he was so critical of me. Like if I would gain a little bit of weight, he'd be like, "Oh, what's that?" And then if I lost weight, he'd be like, "Where'd your butt go?" And which is just always like
Huh.
nothing was
That
ever
was the new
enough. And
guy.
no, that was my ex.
No, we won't go into all of them.
Yeah.
But when your dad got caught, there was obviously a range of ages around the 11 of you guys, with your mum included. When your dad got caught, you obviously don't need to go into the depth of what was happening, but how did he get caught? How did he get found out? And then how did the others react
Yeah.
to that? So if anyone wasn't fully aware, or it was normalized, like you
Yeah.
mentioned a couple of times, it was normalized how you lived, and you didn't know until you were older, or maybe you found out more when he got caught that it was wrong. Yeah, how did he get caught?
Yeah, so we had actually we had gone to Astroworld, or one of, I forget what it's called, but it was the one that was like in Houston or something, one of those theme parks on
Hmm.
Father's Day, and whenever we had gotten back, my mom had taken some of us to go drop off a stray cat, which is, it sounds so weird, but this was like a normal occurrence. Like we would get these random animals and then like go drop them off on the side of the road. So he had sent her to do that. And I still don't know if I was with her or if I was back at the house, because he made me testify that I was back at the house. So that's a whole, I'll get
So
into
now
that in
you're
a minute.
questioning what's the truth.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But apparently, whenever w she was gone, dropping off the cat, it was whenever he had brought my cousin into the room and locked the door, and my sister Tammy was out in the living room with the younger boys, and John, I think it was, had like cut himself or something, and so she needed a band-aid, and my cousin needed to use the phone, and this was back when there was like not like mobile phones, so it was just like a house phone. And so he had unplugged the one in the living room, so it wasn't working, and so she had to go use the one in his room. So that's why she was even in there. And he locked the door. So Tammy went to open the door, and it was locked. And she was like, "Dad, John cut himself. I need a band-aid." And like he just kept like shushing her away and telling her to go, like go find one. And then so she kept coming back. And apparently my cousin has said like she saved him from like her from him being able to go all the way, because she was so persistent in coming back to the door. And then my mom, gets back, and none of us know that anything had happened at this point, but her mom, my cousin's mom, had come to pick her up. And she immediately told her, and my dad was leaving for work. He worked like offshore early the next day. So by the time the cops showed up the next morning to like arrest him, because they had called the cops and all of this, um, he was already like gone to offshore. And so I remember we all went to my grandma's house for like a few days, on my mom's side, as this was all going on, and we were just like, I guess didn't know what to believe and distraught, just like thinking, wait, did this really happen? And then he found a way to contact my mom and convinced her that he didn't do it. And then that's whenever we left with her and went into hiding with him. And I think we were somewhere in Homa. I just remember there was a lot of like mosquitoes, and we were in like this house with like a screen porch, thing, and it was like very humid. That's all I remember. And we stayed there for a while. And then
Is
I
that
guess
when you
he
were on the run
finally,
from the cops?
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, so then he finally, turned himself in, I guess, and then yeah, so whenever we went to court, finally went to court for it, he made me and Tammy and a few others like testify in on his behalf, and just like say that, I honestly, I don't even remember. I know it's on the web, so I probably should go back and read it, even just to maybe work through that, um but yeah, so like he had us all, testify and say whatever he wanted us to say to try and claim his innocence. And um, yeah,
With you testifying then, did that bring, did you lose any connection and relationships through you having to, I suppose, I don't know, lie, testify?
yeah. I mean, definitely with his like with that my mom's side of the family, but we all did in general, because we weren't allowed to talk to them for so many years.
Yeah.
So it's and I think like eventually that side of the family and us had all gotten closer, and I think they understand. I mean, we were terrified, so it's like we
Yeah.
would do anything he asked us to do, because you don't want to be beat to death. So it's like, you're gonna do what you're told. But
Yeah.
yeah. So now it's normal per se, but uh, yeah,
Yeah.
I was angry like at him for doing that, and then sad because at the end of the day he was still my dad, so it's like you still love them even though they're like so messed up and they've done so many horrible things. It's there's always that hope that maybe they're going to change. um and so then that was gone. um and then I felt guilty for feeling sad because of all the things that he had done and the people that he had harmed, including, me. And but then I also felt relief because that was like that fear of him, it was gone, so it's just, it's hard to even explain. But it's like and that is something that I think that made it so difficult to work through. And even still, it's like there's so many layers to it, because it's like every emotion that you feel conflicts with the next. And so it's like it's like where do you even begin, And so yeah, it was a lot. And then I feel like I was emotionally just drained after those like first few weeks. And then I had a boyfriend at the time, and he like broke up with me on the day of my dad's funeral. uh real 10 out of 10 guy.
Why did
But
he do that?
maybe it was too much for him, I guess. I don't know. And so it was just, and then I had found out like a friend, I had forgot about all of this still just now, but that was hooking up with my other ex, and I had just found out, like, she tells me they're living together. So it was just like, I mean, so many things. So I think I, after like a few weeks, just kind of shut down emotionally without realizing it. And that was that way for a year or more. And I remember it wasn't until I was like watching TV, and it was one of those like dog commercials where they're like show you the homeless dogs, and they're like trying to raise money. And like, I like animals, but I'm not like a huge animal lover, like, want a bunch of pets, because we always had them, and my parents didn't like take care of them. So I just learned to not have like a connection, I guess, in that way. And I would cry to like even those commercials, and just like literally everything would make me cry. And that's when I realized, I was like, okay, I need to obviously go to therapy maybe. And like that was something that my family didn't do. It was like very taboo and whatever. And so I finally did and started working through therapy. And luckily there was this therapist that like heard my story, and she like offered to give me therapy for free because I couldn't afford it, and we didn't have health insurance or anything like that. So
That was
yeah,
nice.
so yeah, that was honestly probably saved my life in a lot of ways. But I think well, there's been some things that have happened recently, like in terms of partnerships and music, I'll say, where things weren't aligning direction wise with the past team. So like I've recently taken a split with that. And but that means that now I get to keep putting out music that I believe in, and that is real and authentic, because I've been not allowed to, I guess you could say, like, because of, you have to wait for permission when you're working with labels and things like that. So now I no
Permission
longer
in
have
what
to
sense?
wait for
Sorry.
permission. Like, they have to approve it if they're going to fund it, so it's like, if it was too deep or it wasn't palatable enough, or like whatever, it's like there's a lot of music that I've wanted to put out that's like real and about my story, that I haven't gotten to put out because not everybody agreed on it on the team. And so now it's I no longer have to wait on permission, I guess, but it also means that I'm back to funding it myself. So this expensive hobby is gonna be, yeah. So but I'm hoping that, I'll find the right people and producers that, believe in me and my music enough to partner with me and continue to put out songs and releases and all of that. And so that's my plan, because I've got a lot of songs that I believe in, that I love, and I think people will find a lot of healing from. That the only reason I haven't put them out was just because I needed the label to be in agreement with me releasing it,
Yeah.
basically. So
Yeah. From my point, we don't know how the artist things work very often, so that's interesting to learn about that. So thanks for sharing that, and I hope the right people come, and I hope your expensive hobby doesn't stay expensive for too long.
No, me too. And I think there's so many artists out there, honestly, that some of the best songs have yet to be released because of gatekeepers, we'll call it, and so who knows, maybe I'll be a part of starting that wave of some kind of new way of doing things where creatives are able to be creative and not be restricted and can release the music that they truly believe in. So
a lot are doing that though, aren't they?
It's hard to do, but it's it's possible. So
yeah, for sure. What you just witnessed is only a snippet of our amazing conversation this week. This is what Leading Our Own Way is all about. Real stories, real transformation. If you're watching this before Wednesday, part 1 dropped yesterday and part 2 releases tomorrow. But if you're already here after Wednesday, all parts are available now. Head to YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts and every other major platform and look for the numbers on the bottom left-hand corner of the episode's covers to start with part 1. Trust me, you don't want to miss this incredible journey.